On Sunday, the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions will do battle at Ford Field, and with it, the NFL has got its picturesque, perfect primetime playoff matchup. But this matchup has got more narratives and storylines to it than a barrel full of rattlesnakes. We're going to talk about in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions, and
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in right now. But before we dive in, I just want to say to everybody that's my returning viewers and subscribers, thank you all for coming back. Thank you all for everything you do. It absolutely means the world to me, and I'm ever so thankful for each and every one of y'all. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very first time, I just want to say thank you all for what you do. I'm so thankful for you as well. I hope you all enjoy the content, but even more so, I hope to gain you all subscribers if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, I just want to say to everybody, God bless, hope y'all are having a good day, and let's get into it here. So, I'm just going to say this right now. Did I, or did I not, call this? For those that actually remember the episode, I will put the episode back up at the top, but I called this literally like almost a month and a half ago when I said the perfect playoff game could be in the works from the NFL. And the NFL, I'm just going to say this right now, virtually did everything it could to make sure that this game was going to happen. You got to think about it seriously here. The Dallas game, whatever you want to call that, they made sure that this game had every possibility to happen because, let's just call it for what it is, the NFL is an entertainment business. The NFL wants to make sure that they have quality games that people want to watch. And I'm telling you this right now, much like I said in that episode, there is no game right now that the NFL is going to have wild card weekend that is going to be more prime time, more big time, more anything you want to call it, than this game that the Lions are going to have against the Rams. Because you take a look at every matchup that's going on right now. You take a look at every matchup in the NFC. Bucks versus Eagles. That's going to be a snooze fest. That's probably going to be the least entertaining playoff matchup there is. The Eagles are literally limping their butts into freaking the playoffs. The freaking Bucks barely scraped by the Panthers by 9-0. You take a look at the Cowboys and Packers. I have a funny feeling the Cowboys are going to demolish the Packers. That's just me personally. Then you take a look at the AFC. At the time I'm currently recording this, the Bills and the Dolphins are still duking it out in the fourth quarter. It's 14-14. But depending upon what happens there could really shake up what's going to happen through the 2 through the 7 seed. But realistically, no matter what happens, in my honest opinion, the Lions-Rams game is the highlight of the wild card weekend for the NFL, which is part of the reason why the Lions and Rams got primetime scheduling, because everyone's going to say, well, David, every playoff game's primetime. Yes, because only one team plays at each individual slot. At least that's the way I understand it. But it's like, let's think about it here. Sunday night football. You don't get any better than that. You can say Monday night, but it's like, listen, Sunday night football, everybody's watching you. The whole NFL is watching you, and there's a reason why the Lions got primetime billing. Because this is the, like I said, picturesque, perfect playoff game for the NFL. This is the game that literally sets everything up for the NFL's playoff schedule. Because this right here is how you want to start the playoffs. You want a game that has so many narratives, it has so many storylines, it has so many different twists and turns to the thought process. This is your game. Because you got to think about it here. This is a game, like I said, meant to be. Because think about it. What is this game primarily going after? It's going after the quarterbacks primarily. Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff going up against his old ex-head coach. Matthew Stafford coming back to Detroit, his first time back to Detroit ever since he got traded. This is a game that literally, like I said in my episode, it writes the story for itself. But you got to think about it here. Take a look at all the different things that are going to go on in this game over the next week as freaking ESPN analysts, as NFL analysts, as all the local freaking shows are going to talk about. Think about every single narrative that's going to get talked about. Think about this one. Let's talk about the first one that's the low-hanging fruit. Let's talk about Goff versus McVay here. You got to think about this. Does Jared Goff finally get the last laugh over McVay? Could you imagine how big of a moment it would be for Jared Goff, who still has a freaking boulder of a chip on his shoulder from what McVay did to him, if McVay comes into Detroit with his new golden boy, Matthew Stafford, and Goff gets the win over them in Detroit? Do you get an idea of how freaking vindicated Jared Goff would be? He's obviously not going to say it, but I guarantee you, inside he would be jumping for joy over that victory. That's just from that personal standpoint. Forget everything else about that being the Lions' first playoff victory in 30 years. If he was to get that vindication, that would be just as sweet. It wouldn't be more sweet, but it'd be just as sweet as getting the Lions their first playoff victory in 30 years. That would be amazing for him. I can guarantee that without having to know Jared Goff personally. And then you think about this. Like I said, Jared Goff getting the Lions their first playoff victory since 1991. That's something that Stafford couldn't even do. If Jared Goff could do that, he would instantly become the second greatest quarterback in Detroit Lions history. I don't care what anyone wants to say about Matthew Stafford. I like Matthew Stafford. But if Goff gets a playoff victory over Matthew Stafford at home when Stafford couldn't get one playoff victory, Jared Goff instantly goes to number 2 on the list. He's just below freaking Bobby Lane, in my opinion, because at that point, he's done something that no other Lions quarterback has done in 30 years. Debate with me all you want, argue with me all you want, but you're not going to be able to debate the facts if that's what happens Sunday night. And then you got to think about this. If Goff does beat Sean McVay and Stafford at the Lions' home place, at Ford Field, at that point, all of his critics have got to shut the hell up. I'm sorry, they have to. Because, listen, you can say every little thing you've said about Jared Goff. Oh, Jared Goff can't throw a deep ball. Jared Goff has a wobbly pass. Jared Goff this, If Jared Goff beats Stafford and the Rams at Ford Field and gets the Lions their first playoff victory, any critic that tries to continue to bash Jared Goff is going to look like the biggest horse's ass in the entirety of Detroit media. There's just no debate on it. I don't care if it's Easy from Woodward Sports. I don't care if it's Spencer. I don't care who it is. It can be 97.1 ticket. Jared Goff at that point will have completely shut up all of his critics, and they're going to have to sit down and give him his praise. They're going to have to give him his flowers if that happens. So there's that. But then you go and you actually take a look at the narrative between the two quarterbacks itself. Goff versus Stafford. You got to think about it here. Think about just the two stories of the quarterbacks in general. Think about it from Stafford's perspective. The quarterback who could never get Detroit the division crown and then also could never get the Lions the playoff victory, which was his whole point of coming to Detroit, was the whole point of him getting drafted. He was supposed to be the savior of the Detroit Lions. Could never do it. Again, is that Stafford's fault? Absolutely not. It's not his fault. There's a lot of other factors that go into what happened while Stafford was here. Stafford's part of it, but he is definitely not the main reason of it. You had poor management, poor coaching, bad roster management. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into it. But Stafford is part of what's going on there. So for Stafford, that's his story. He is coming back to Detroit in the one place I guarantee you he never thought he was going to be, as the opponent for the Lions' first playoff game, something that he wanted to get them. Well, now he's coming to Detroit for their first playoff game, but he ain't going to be wearing the Honolulu blue and silver. So there's that. Then, and again, think about this. It's the first time he's coming back to Detroit in 2 years. It's been the first time he's been to Detroit since he got traded. The only time that the Rams and Lions have matched up since the trade was in 2021 when the Lions went to the Rams. Other than that, Stafford has had no association with the Lions since then. So think about it. It's his first time back in Detroit, and it's in a primetime playoff game. That's a pretty big moment if you do ask me. I mean, that's pretty big. Then you take a look at Jared Goff's side of the equation. Goff was completely disregarded, disrespected by the Rams, by Les Snead and Sean McVay. Pretty much told, you're crap, we don't want you, we think you're washed up, we're going to trade you to the Lions, and they're going to do with you whatever they will. And his team that he had led to the Super Bowl, comes crawling back to Ford Field, and he's going to get his chance to get a chance at revenge. Talk about the ultimate chance of revenge right there. Oh, you completely disregard me, you completely disrespect me, And now, here we are 3 years later, and you are coming to my home field's turf to play us in a primetime playoff slot. That's a very interesting setup of circumstances, don't you think? So there's those two first narratives. But then you got to think about it just from the stats perspective, because again, this is something that just blows me, because I know people have talked about the Pro Bowl. And I didn't decide to talk about the Pro Bowl because I think that, you know what, again, the Pro Bowl is just a popularity contest. But when you take a look at the stats, it just is mind-blowing how Stafford got in for the NFC team and Goff didn't. Again, take a look at Goff's stats really quickly here. 67.3 completion percentage, 4,500 yards, actually almost 46, 30 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, a 97.9 passer rating, and a 59.7 QBR. That's pretty much tops in the NFL, like top 10, top 5, maybe even top 3 for some of those stats. The stats haven't been fully formulated just yet to show where the rankings are at, but that's a pretty damn good showing by Jared Goff. You take a look at Stafford. Now, I know Rams fans that see this are going to be like, well, David, Stafford didn't play his last week against the 49ers. I get that. But still, even had Stafford played, there's no way he's matching Jared Goff's stats. Not a chance in hell. Because think about it. Stafford's stats, 62.6%. That's about a 5% difference right there. You take a look at his yards, 3,965. Even if Stafford had put up 400 yards, he'd still be about 200 yards short of Jared Goff. 24 touchdowns to Goff's 30, still significantly short. About the same amount of interceptions, significantly lower in the passer rating. The QBR rating is a little bit higher though, but it's like, listen, how in the hell does Matthew Stafford get the Pro Bowl nod when Jared Goff does it, and Jared Goff finishes as a second alternate? That to me just is just ridiculous. It's like Jared Goff had the much better statistical year than Stafford. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's what you've got playing on freaking Sunday night to bring this back into the playoff conversation. You got two quarterbacks that are very good at what they do, and they're coming in to play at Ford Field for probably one of the biggest wild card game matchups that we've seen in a long time. So there's that. Now we move on to the narrative number 3 here. Take a look at this narrative. Ben Johnson versus Sean McVay. You seeing a pattern here? We're spending a lot of time with the offenses. But think about this. You have arguably one of the best offensive-minded head coaches in the NFL. I don't really like Sean McVay. I think he's an arrogant, cocky individual, but say what you will about that. He is very, very brilliantly minded when it comes to his offensive schemes. But you've got that on the Rams side of the ball. The only other offensive-minded head coach that I think could probably top McVay would probably be Shanahan. Then you take a look at Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson is arguably, if not regarded as the best offensive coordinator in the NFL. And he has been able to do much more and much better with Sean McVay's old quarterback, Jared Goff, than what Sean McVay was able to do. So you have to think about it. Take a look at what Ben Johnson has been able to do this year with this offense. He has 4 players that have 10-plus touchdowns or more. That was Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff had 30 passing touchdowns this year, plus 2 rushing touchdowns, so 32 total touchdowns. You want to know when the last time an offensive team did that, so an offensive unit? 2013, the Denver Broncos. That's the last time that happened. And oh, by the way, the Denver Broncos went to the Super Bowl that year. And here's another little cherry to add on top of that already nice, sweet little revelation. That's only the second time in NFL history that that's happened. Think about that. Only 2 times in the entirety of the NFL has a team had 4 or more players that have had 10 or plus touchdowns. And the Lions are one of them. And the only other time that it's happened was the Denver Broncos, who went to the Super Bowl, whose quarterback was a Hall of Fame quarterback in Peyton Manning, and the Lions, who had Jared Goff. So say what you will about Jared Goff, but Jared Goff is in some pretty prestigious company, if you ask me. But then it really comes down to this question. Who's the better offensive mind? Who's the better offensive coach? Ben Johnson or Sean McVay? Because I guarantee you, both those guys are going to be pulling no punches when it comes to this game. So you got to really wonder who's going to pull out the more dynamic, explosive, creative plays, whether it's Sean McVay or Ben Johnson. So there's that narrative. Then you take a look at this one. Kind of now to change things and go to a different kind of gear here. Aaron Glenn versus Matthew Stafford. Because you got to think about this. I know, say what you will about Aaron Glenn. I've said it before myself. But take a look at what Aaron Glenn has done over the last 4 weeks as far as the total defense. 13 sacks over the last 4 weeks. That's 3 a game on average. 250 rushing yards over the last 4 games. That's averaging about 63 rushing yards a game. 9 turnovers over the last 4 games. That's about 2 a game right there. That's pretty good for a defense. Third down conversion percentage, only 34.7%. Again, pretty damn good. But this is the Achilles heel that keeps killing Aaron Glenn, and it's the problem that I've had with him all damn year. 1,375 passing yards over the last 4 weeks. That's an average of 344 passing yards a game. And the majority of that production has come over the last 3 weeks when Nick Mullins threw 396 yards against us on Sunday. Then, freaking on Saturday, Dak Prescott threw 345. And then the previous Sunday, Nick Mullins threw 411 against us. And think about it, that was against Justin Jefferson twice and CeeDee Lamb once. So if you think about that, that right there already poses a very, very problematic narrative for Aaron Glenn and his defense. Because if you're having problems with Nick Mullins, Dak Prescott, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb, what the hell do you think's going to happen when you go up against Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua? What makes you think that's going to be any better alternative? That's going to be one of the biggest questions, biggest narratives that the Lions are going to have to figure out this week, because they have got to find a way to stop Stafford just literally carving us up with Cooper Kupp and Nacua. Like, that's got to be biggest number one stopping point for the Lions. They have got to find a way to stop that trio. Because also think about this. Over the last 4 weeks, the Lions' touchdown ratio between passing and rushing, 7 passing touchdowns to only 2 rushing touchdowns. Pretty much what it means is that offenses are only able to throw the ball against us. Well, if you take a look at Stafford and company, he's got 2 1,000-yard receivers in Kupp and Nacua. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. So think about that. And even if Kupp didn't get 1,000 yards, because I'm speaking part of that off of just assumption, Kupp is a previous Triple Crown winner, so he's still a threat. So that's a problem. So again, Glenn is going to have that secondary playing on its best behavior. It's going to be on all P's and Q's for that coverage, because if you can play decent enough coverage, your next thing you got to do with Stafford is you've got to get pressure on him. We've already seen that the Lions have definitely upticked their sack production over the last couple of weeks. Well, think about this. I went to both PFF and ESPN Analytics. The Rams' pass blocking on PFF is ranked 20th, and their ESPN Analytics for pass block win rate is ranked 21st. What does that mean? That means this. If the Lions get pressure on Stafford, there's a good chance they can get after him, they can sack him, and they can get that offense out of a rhythm. And again, Hutch has been playing great the last 2 games. He's gotten 5 sacks in 2 games. Josh Pascal started to kind of catch on. Levi Onwuzurike got a sack. It's like, listen, you've definitely got the capability to apply pressure to Matthew Stafford. It's definitely there. It's just, listen, you've got to apply pressure on one side of it, and you've got to have great coverage downfield. Whether it's Ife Melifonwu, whether it's C.J. Gardner-Johnson, whether it's Cameron Sutton, whether it's Kirby Joseph, I don't care. You have just got to find a way to cover those wide receivers so that way those defensive linemen can sack and pressure Stafford to get him uncomfortable in the pocket. So there's that narrative. Now, narratives aside, there's one last one that we need to talk about here that's a little bit more closer to home. Lions fans versus Stafford. Because I'm going to be honest with y'all. I've already seen some comments from some Lions fans that have already kind of got my little red flag going up here. I'm telling you this right now. The fans cannot be nice to Stafford when he comes into Ford Field. I don't give a damn how many years he played for Detroit. I don't care how much he gave to the city. Don't care. He's on an enemy team. He does not matter in this one. It's like, listen, true allegiance must be to the Lions. I don't give a damn about the Detroit Rams bullcrap from freaking a year ago. I don't give a damn about Stafford. I don't give a damn about any of that. When he steps out on the field, you get loud, you get raucous, you make sure that Stafford can't even hear his teeth chatter. Make sure he can't listen to anything except screaming fans. You have to get into Stafford's head as best as possible. I know it's hard to do for a quarterback that's been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, and has been in a lot of raucous crowds, but it's like, listen, you've got to make it difficult for him. And then you take a look at it on the opposite side for Stafford. Like I said, this is his first time coming to Detroit in 2 years. So you have to ask yourself this question. Can Stafford handle the emotions? Can Stafford handle all the stuff that's going to go with that game for such a high-profile game in his return to Detroit? Because, again, it's not like it's a regular season game. This is primetime playoff game. Like, this is a big, big game. And for me, it's like, this is a game that's really going to test if Stafford's going to be able to step out on that field and maintain composure. I fully expect that he will, but it's definitely going to be a question that's going to be in the back of my head. Now, like I said, narratives aside there, because that was the last one. I got a little bit ahead of myself. You then have to take a look at this. I started thinking about what would be a good team to compare these two together with as kind of like a litmus test, and I found it. And wouldn't you know it, it was the team that no Lions fan wants to continue to talk about at this point, but it's the Dallas Cowboys. The Lions and Rams both played the Cowboys this year. And here's the difference. When the Rams, because again, both teams played the Cowboys at their home field. So that's the same thing. And oh, by the way, also check this out. The Lions and Rams both had their complete complement of starters for these games. So it's about as fair of a comparison as you're going to get. Take a look at what, just think about this. When you go back to when the Rams played the Cowboys, the Rams got their asses spanked to the Cowboys 43-20. The Lions, when they played the Cowboys, only lost by 1 point. Not 23, 1. And let's be fair here. The Lions made a fight of it and should have won that game by all rights. And everybody admits that they should have won that game. Whereas, like I said, the Rams got completely embarrassed. They got destroyed by the Cowboys. And then think about this. What's the other difference between those two things? Other than the fact that the Rams and Lions played the Cowboys at their home stadium. The Lions played the Cowboys in a Saturday night primetime game that was also a playoff-style game. Because you got to think about it. The Lions and Cowboys were playing for the number 2 seed rights at that point. And the Cowboys, regardless of what anyone wants to say, they're the number 2 seed now. But at that point, you're playing for playoff seeding. So it's a primetime playoff-esque kind of game. Whereas when the Rams played the Cowboys, it was a mid-season kind of just regular season tilt. So it's like, listen, the Lions went up against the Cowboys in a very high-pressure game at Jerry World, should have won the game, but lost because of a bad call by a ref, and only lost by 1 point, but they should have won it. Whereas when the Rams played the Cowboys about mid-season, they got completely destroyed and decimated by the Cowboys. So it's like, listen, I like what the Lions are going into against the Rams. I like the fact that the Rams' defense has not been particularly strong this year. The Lions' offense is one of the best of all time, at least as far as what I just said about the Broncos, as far as their continuous production, as far as what Ben Johnson and Jared Goff have been able to do. So that's something that I like right there. I also like the fact that our defense is starting to apply more pressure and getting after the quarterback. That means that Stafford, at 35 years old, who does not move very well anymore, is a sitting duck for them. The only thing I don't like about is the matchup is the defensive secondary with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. That to me just ugh. And I'm sorry if I keep mispronouncing Nakua's name. I'll just go with Nacua. The point of the matter is this. The matchup for me, for the Lions and the Rams, that actually is a really good matchup. The only thing that I have a problem with is, like I said, the defensive secondary versus those wide receivers. But if we can find a way to disrupt Stafford or get good coverage on those wide receivers, I think the Lions should win the game. I know that's really, really early to say because it's only Monday, but dude, I'm looking at this game, and the Lions have got everything going for them. They just won against the division rivals. They just tied their franchise record for most games won in a season. They just set another NFL record that's only been done one other time in NFL history. It's like, dude, the Lions have got everything going for them. The Rams, yeah, they won against the 49ers, but they won with backups. It's like, really, does that really make a difference? No, not really. I get it. It was both teams playing their backups, but it's like, listen, I really don't care. Because as far as I'm concerned, that really doesn't count in my opinion. That was just a game where both teams were trying their best not to get starters injured. And you know what? The Rams just won by 1 measly point. So you know what? Whoop-de-doo. I know that might sound cocky, but I don't care. Anyway, With that having been said, I think this is a good place to end this episode, so I'm going to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode I got coming at the end of this one. I also encourage y'all, please, to make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and if by chance you subscribed in the past, you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe. It really helps me out. But also, please, I highly encourage y'all to make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, subscription numbers are always going up, but we want to make sure we turn on that notification as well. And also help in that endeavor, please share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. Again, the more we share it, the more people get to come in, the more we grow, the better the channel does, and that's what we're all about doing on here, to get more people in so we can have greater conversations about the Lions and football in general. And with that being said, folks, I just want to again say thank you all for your time, thank you all for your view. Hopefully I gained you as a subscriber, and if I haven't, hopefully I'll get another chance later on down the road. But with that, I just want to say thank you all for watching the content, God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.